All right, hi everybody. This is Bill Gilliland here with this week's Action Business Profile, and I'm here with Shawn Leatherwood from the Architectural Studio. Hi, Shawn.
Hey, how are you doing, Bill?
I'm excellent. So tell us a little bit about Shawn Leatherwood and your background and how you got into architecture.
Well, I think I'm one of the few people that knew early on in life, by at least middle school or early senior high, what I wanted to do. Ended up going to school for an interior design degree, undergrad in interior design, and then an undergrad in architecture, and then my professional degree in architecture. So it's sort of been a lifelong path for me from an early age, which I think is fortunate. A lot of people don't know what they want to do at that age. And spent a lot of time in school and work experience, and finally worked my way around to, I guess in 2001, opening up my own firm back in Waynesville, North Carolina, which is where I'm from. Spent 10 to 12 years in the Charlotte, North Carolina area, working for several firms down there, getting experience and getting ready to go. So sort of ended up where I'm at, and happy I did it and doing well.
Okay. So who do you serve? I mean, what kind of clients do you actually serve?
We're real fortunate in Western North Carolina. I think, for the next foreseeable future, the baby boomer generation, retirement homes, I equate it to our mountain views, our beachfront properties. So we're a destination location. Those are primarily our clients. We focus probably 95% of our work is on custom homes, second homes, estate homes, and retirement homes. Very little commercial work. If it's a commercial project, we're doing it as a favor to a residential client. That's been primarily our focus, and that market seems to really be growing and expanding and opening up pretty wide open for us in this area.
Tell us a little bit about those kind of clients and sort of how you serve them and what makes you different when it comes to serving that level of clientele.
Well, ultimately, I think any business, regardless of what it is, I think can always relate back to you're in many ways a service industry. Those clients are looking for someone to shepherd them through the process of finding a lot, a location that meets their needs, a development or a community that meets their needs, and then through the design and the construction process. And we're a full service architecture firm, so we start as early as helping them look at different lots and evaluate that, and then go through the schematic design phase all the way through construction documents and helping them in the bid process and selection of contractors. Picking finishes. We also provide full service interior design services. So that whole process, it's a pretty long process, start to finish. We're typically working with a client 1 to 2 years from the time they hire us until the time they move in their home, and spend a lot of time, I always joke and call it hand-holding. But it's a real one-on-one relationship with clients, which is real rewarding to me, and one of the reasons I chose to go the residential route. So it's pretty much a service industry, helping a client achieve the goals and dreams and budgets and finishes and aesthetic for the home that they see themselves typically spending the rest of their days in.
So I guess if you spend 2 years with some of these clients, they actually become
part of
the family.
They do. I always joke, we need to learn more about you than you really want us to know. and then we should know, but it's important to really be able to get inside their head and figure out a way to have a good dialogue where you're communicating together if you want to be successful at giving them what it is that they're seeing in their mind's eye. You have to really develop that relationship, and by the time that process is finished, I can say we are still great friends with all of our clients. Probably have dinner at least once a year with clients that we haven't worked for in 10 years. Started joking in the last month or so, I'm starting to feel a little old. We're getting repeat clients. And you go, wow, it's been 10 years since we did your house and now you're back, so that's a good sign. But you develop a lot of close relationships with your clients in that process, and that's a real rewarding aspect of what we're doing as well.
One of the things I know from past conversations with you is that you really are a designer.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about the art piece of architecture. I mean, everybody knows that people can draw plans, but what really sets you apart as an architect or an architectural firm?
Well, it's a little elusive at times, and I'm still, I think, even at having your own business for 10 or 12 years now, still discovering how to describe it. I've got a great staff around me, and I surround myself with people that can pick up the technical sides and complement my strengths and weaknesses. But the artistic side, my mother-in-law always asks, just, all your houses are so different. Where does this come from? And she's asked me that for the last couple of years. And at first I said, I don't really know. But you spend a lot of time. I've studied a lot of architectural history, and you try to draw cues from the comments your clients make and the images that they show you of things that they like and the things that they don't like. And there's this sort of metamorphosis of those thoughts that, quite often is happening at 2 in the morning, but with a few cups of coffee. But it starts to take shape and you start putting the ideas down on paper, and they just evolve. They evolve from shapes and forms and contours and views and all the influences, external influences and internal influences that your clients are relating to you will start to make the house a home. And they're all unique. They're as unique as their clients. They're as unique as the lots. It's a seemingly elusive process, but I'm starting to, I think in my old age, let's call it, start to figure out there's a common thread there. That common thread is just really reading your clients and listening to what they want and looking at the impacts, external factors such as the site, the topography, the sunrise, the sunset, and you end up with this product that hopefully, if we've done our job well, it meets their goals and is the best product it could be in that location.
Talk a little bit more about the actual process that you take a client through from their standpoint of view, right, and how you make that transition to take what's in their head or in their eyes and get it into your head and your eyes and get it down on paper.
We're a little bit different, and I've talked about that than many of the firms that I cut my teeth in the Charlotte area and many of the firms in this area, where a client will give us what I call the wish list. It's the absolute Christmas wish list and bunches of images. And the typical scenario is an architect will take that information and I say, go behind the dark curtain and create something and then have the big reveal. And we do it a little bit different. I expect as much of a commitment towards the project from my clients as I'm going to be giving them. And we have a 2 to 3 day, sometimes a 4-day design charrette where, we'll get together at 8 o'clock in the morning and I'll gather all their information and their site plan and their site topography and, north, south, east, west directions, and literally put trace paper over that site plan and start sketching spatial relationships for that client right there and get their immediate feedback. Instead of me taking their information and going behind the curtain and making decisions, there's 4 different positions a house could be. And I don't feel like it's my job to tell them which they get. So I have that morning design charrette with them where I try to incorporate as much of their information into the sketches as I can and tell them the impacts of any decision they ask me to make. Go away, have a lunch break, and spend the rest of the afternoon, sometimes the rest of the night, tidying those sketches up and show it to them again the next morning for them to immediately give me feedback again and put the trace paper over it. There's a lot to be said for one-on-one personal communication, and we can do this design process the old-fashioned way where I go away and I email and ask them questions, but people, the way they answer a question tells me a lot, and I think that gives us a strength as an architecture firm at being able to read the nuances that they put in a statement, the look on their face when they say, yeah, I like that. So our process is a little bit different, where that first 3 or 4 days, we're spending time hand in hand with them, getting them engaged in the process, getting them emotionally invested in the process, and hopefully avoiding some of the pitfalls of me making a decision, is it choice A or choice B, and choice A was the right one and I chose choice B. So we've developed that a little bit, the last year or so working with you, and it's something that I've, I think, toyed with the idea over the first 10 or 12 years of my business, and it's really starting to refine itself into a process that I think's, giving our clients even a higher level of product that's more customized to their needs than in the past.
Tell us a success story from one of your clients in the past. How you moved them through the whole process and what the final outcome was and what their deal was.
We've got some clients at Balsam Mountain Preserve that is one of the first clients we went through that sort of process with, and that one was sort of happenstance that we went through that process. We were interviewing against another architecture firm. They had interviewed that morning, and me and my associate knew we had to hit the ball out of the park that afternoon because we knew who we'd interviewed against. So we took that extra step in that initial first one-on-one interview and did that. And I found out in hindsight that they'd already verbally committed to the previous architect before lunch that they'd interviewed with. And our sketch process and drawing them into the process and showing them that it was really about them and not about us, they ended up at the end of that day calling the other architect back and sort of telling them that they had a change of heart and that they were going to go with us. And the project went great. The home was a intergenerational home for 4 generations and future generations to come. And that's been 7 years ago, and probably 4 times a year I get a phone call from those clients, and if I don't answer and get a voicemail, they'll just, Shawn, just wanted to tell you I'm sitting in the breakfast nook this morning, and there's something that I've never seen in this house before. But when I saw it today, I knew it was planned and it was something that you had thought of, and having them involved in that process early on allowed us to really cater that house to them. And there's still 6, 7, 8 years later, there's still things that they're discovering about the house that they find as wonderful things that they've discovered. And we get that phone call 2 or 3 times a year, and there's no better reward in my business than that. And sometimes it's the grandparents, and sometimes it's the parents, and sometimes it's the grandkids. They're all discovering things that when they point it out, it was planned. And that hands-on process really allows you to customize a home and cater it to all the unique things that you know over the years that they'll find. So that's been sort of a confirmation that hands-on process has really benefited us and our clients.
So I know, because I know you fairly well, that at one point in your life you were a world-class runner.
Yeah.
Actually a world-class runner. So what did you take from your running training that you've been able to bring forward into your business?
65 pounds ago and 25 years ago. The tenacity that it takes, I think there was a strong correlation, not just between being a distance runner, but I think any athlete at the NCAA, Division I level, takes a tenacity and a unwillingness to surrender and give up. And architecture is very much a profession and an educational process that is survival of the fittest, who's the last man standing. So it taught me a real good work discipline and work ethic, and taught me that I don't understand what the word to give up means. And every now and then at 3 in the morning, you feel like giving up, and that's when you have another cup of coffee and you sit down and clear your head and you go back at it. So the discipline of that competing at the NCAA level, I think really shaped my life. Plus it kept me out of trouble at that age. When most young men in college are probably doing more things than they should be doing. So what else would you like the viewers here to know about your business or about you? I think that at least from a personal standpoint, I think I wouldn't change a thing. I was in college for a long time. I always joke that you haven't lived unless you spent 11 years in college. With that many years in college, there's probably a lot of things I could be doing and could have picked as a career. Med school would have been less college. But I know that I went down the right path that I should have. I'm happy doing what I'm doing. Wouldn't change a thing. If I could rewind time, I wouldn't. And would probably even put even more effort into it than I have. And I know I've put quite a bit of effort into it. So it's been a wonderful path for me. I feel like me and my firm are really starting to hit our stride and getting into the best part of our careers and doing the things that we love to do. So it's been a real rewarding path, and I'm looking forward to a real rewarding future.
Now, one last thing. I know that you've been giving back. Yep. in a way. Tell us about that a little bit.
We do. I was fortunate. There's a couple of mentors of mine that were real influential in my life, probably more than they even realize. They took chances on me and gave me opportunities to get in an office and work, and I worked all my way through architecture school, and it's taught me something. And when I leave this place, you always say you hope you leave the world better than when you found it. And there's one way is to make the world more beautiful with buildings. Another way is to pass along the inspiration and the motivation that those mentors of mine gave to me in subtle ways that over the years really built a passion for architecture. So since the day I opened my office, I've always taken on an intern from my local high school architectural drafting program. They're in the office 2 hours a day, all year long. We've been fortunate, had some really talented kids, and hopefully inspired some other kids. We've got one graduate with his master's from Cornell, who's a teacher at my alma mater now in architecture school. We've got 2 other kids that have gone to engineering school and realized that being in an architect's office, engineering was the route they wanted to go. That's a success. Got a couple of kids in architecture school and one about to go. So I felt like that was real important to do for the profession. The Board of Architecture encourages us to do community outreach for the profession, and I feel like that's sort of my obligation based on a professional and based on the people that gave me that sort of motivation early in my career. So I've been real proud of doing that, really enjoy that, and it's sort of funny, but I think I get more out of it than they do actually. The naivete of the young mind being in the office and remembering being there, and as a boss you're worried about payrolls and all the other things that make business maybe not as much fun as an architect would like it to be. But so getting their enthusiasm infused back into the office has been a great benefit that we get from it. But we feel like we're definitely trying to set in line the next generation of talented architects with the right mindset to serve their clients the way they should be served.
So if someone were trying to get a hold of you, how would they get a hold of Shawn Leatherwood Architectural Studio? We've
got a website, www.mslassoc.com, and then the office phone is the best way to reach us at 828-456-7529, and a Google search of the Architectural Studio or Shawn Leatherwood tends to bring up a lot of the articles. We've been real fortunate in the last 6 or 8 years. We've been in national publications probably 4 to 5 times a year. So there's a lot of our work product out there on the internet that, in some feature articles that gives people a good idea of what it is that we do.
Thanks for coming in,
Yeah,
Shawn.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Yeah.